Welcome, architect. You are receiving this transmission because you have successfully navigated the first 14 layers of the Sapiens Rise curriculum. You have survived the psychological deconstruction, the exposure of the surveillance state, and the realization of your own digital incarceration. Today marks the conclusion of our third cycle, a cycle defined by the construction of the hidden fortress. But a fortress is not a tomb, it is a base of operation. As we approach the final milestone of this playlist, we initiate the most critical directive in our archive, the final protocol. The world you were born into is a sophisticated hallucination. It is a carefully curated reality designed to keep the sapiens in a state of perpetual adolescence, dependent, distracted, and deeply predictable. For years you have felt the friction, the nagging suspicion that the institutions claiming to protect you are the very ones harvesting your life's energy. You were right. But awareness without action is merely a different form of suffering. The great exit is the bridge between knowing and being. It is the moment you stop being a passenger in the collapse of civilization and start being the engineer of its replacement. When we speak of the great exit, the uninitiated imagine a physical flight, a retreat into the wilderness, or a relocation to a distant geography. While physical positioning is a component, the true exit is operational and cognitive. It is the systematic decoupling of your existence from the centralized grid. It is the process of making yourself invisible to the predatory algorithms, while remaining highly functional within your own private network. The system survives on your participation. It feeds on your taxes, your attention, your data, and your compliance. Every time you use a centralized platform, every time you transact in a fiat currency, and every time you seek validation from a state-sanctioned authority, you are providing the fuel for your own enslavement. The final protocol is about starving the beast. We are moving from a world of permissions to a world of protocols. In the old world, you ask for permission to speak, to spend, and to move. In the new world we are building, you simply execute code, verify signatures, and exercise your natural sovereignty. The great exit is not a state of being. It is a state of doing. To exit the matrix, one must construct a parallel existence that mirrors the functions of the state without its inherent tyranny. We call this the architecture of parallel systems. If the centralized world provides you with communication, finance, and information, the architect must secure these through decentralized protocols. This is the quantum exit, a transition where your physical body remains in the world, but your digital and financial essence exists in a dimension the system cannot reach. Communication is the first frontier. In the age of total surveillance, an unencrypted message is a confession. The architect understands that metadata is as lethal as content. Who you speak to, when you speak to them, and from where you speak are the data points the system uses to map your network. The exit requires a migration to end-to-end encrypted metadata strip platforms. We do not use these tools because we have secrets. We use them because we have a right to sanctity. By moving your private correspondence to sovereign servers and encrypted protocols, you are removing a vital sensory organ from the state's surveillance apparatus. You become a ghost in their machine. This is the beginning of the end of your dependency. The architecture of the old world is crumbling, and the architect does not stand beneath the falling debris. We move, we adapt, we build, we build. Every word in this transmission is a brick in your new reality. You must listen not just with your ears, but with your instinct for survival. The system has spent decades making you soft, making you slow, and making you certain of things that are not true. We are here to reverse that process. We are here to reclaim the sharp edge of the human spirit. The great exit is the narrow gate that leads to the only future worth inhabiting. You have the keys. You have the blueprints. Now, you must have the will. The second pillar of the great exit is the absolute decoupling from the fiat financial system. As we have discussed in previous transmissions, the bank is not your vault. It is your supervisor. To execute the final protocol, you must transition from a custodial mindset to a sovereign mindset. In the custodial world, you trust a third party to hold your value. In the sovereign world, you hold your own keys. This is where decentralized finance and hard assets become operational requirements. We are not looking for speculative gains. We are looking for censorship resistance. When your wealth is stored in non-custodial wallets and decentralized ledgers, You have effectively exited the central bank's jurisdiction. They cannot freeze your keys. They cannot bail in your private ledgers. This financial autonomy is the fuel for your hidden fortress. It allows you to transact, support your tribe, and build your future without seeking permission from a credit scoring algorithm. Remember, if you do not control the private keys to your assets, you are merely a guest in someone else's economy. The Great Exit demands a total re-engineering of your information diet. The matrix survives on the capture of your attention. By flooding your environment with high-frequency noise, manufactured outrage, and trivial entertainment, the system ensures that the sapiens never has the silence required for deep sovereign thought. Architecture requires silence. Sovereignty requires focus. To execute the final protocol, you must initiate a radical cognitive hygiene. You must intentionally starve the distraction. You must stop seeking validation from the digital coliseum, where algorithms decide your worth based on your engagement with the trivial. When you reclaim your attention, you reclaim your power. The system thrives on your emotional volatility. It fears your cold, calculated indifference. The architect operates with the detachment of a surgeon, observing the chaos of the world without allowing it to vibrate within his own fortress. Furthermore, we must address the gray man protocol in its physical and legal dimensions. Strategic obscurity is not about living in a cave. It is about living in plain sight while remaining operationally invisible to the bureaucracy. Every contract you sign, every digital terms of service you accept, and every government-issued identification you rely upon is a tether to the centralized grid. The Great Exit involves auditing these dependencies with ruthless precision. We utilize private associations, alternative jurisdictions, and privacy-hardened operating systems to create layers of insulation between the individual and the state. By fragmenting your identity across multiple platforms and jurisdictions, you ensure that no single entity has a complete map of your life. You become a puzzle that the machine was never designed to solve. As the centralized institutions fail, and their failure is a mathematical certainty, those who have exited the system must find each other through the parallel network. This is the most advanced stage of the protocol. We are not building public communities for the sake of social comfort. We are forming private, high-trust alliances between sovereign nodes. These networks are the lifeblood of the new era. They are underground economies where value is exchanged without fiat intermediaries. They are private intelligence networks where truth is shared without the filter of state-sanctioned censorship. The parallel network is the shadow empire that will inherit the cultural and economic ruins of the old world. You are not just saving yourself, you are preserving the very blueprint of human civilization for the generations that follow. We must also understand the mechanics of the cognitive siege. The system does not just want your compliance, it wants your belief. It uses the media, the educational apparatus, and the entertainment industry to install a firmware of dependency. This firmware makes you believe that without the system you are nothing. The final protocol requires you to overwrite this firmware with the code of self-reliance. You must become the source of your own energy, your own security, and your own truth. This transition is not merely technical, it is an alchemical transformation of the self. You are moving from the lead of the submissive mass to the gold of the sovereign alpha. The Great Exit is the ultimate act of rebellion because it is an act of creation. It is the refusal to be a resource for a predatory machine and the decision to become the owner of your own destiny. The mechanics are complex, the discipline required is immense, and the path is often lonely. But for the architect who sees the closing trap of the perceivable world, there is no other choice. The Great Exit is now operationally defined, but its final execution rests not in your hardware, but in your spirit. To truly exit the matrix, you must kill the slave mind that the system has spent decades perfecting within you. The most difficult shackle to break is the one you cannot see, the psychological need for external authority. For generations, sapiens have been bred to look upward for permission, guidance, and safety. The architect looks only inward and toward his trusted tribe. Sovereignty is a heavy crown. It means that when you fail, there is no one to blame but yourself. There is no social safety net in the shadows. There is only your preparation and your competence. Most people will choose the comfortable prison over the dangerous freedom because they fear the mirror. They fear seeing a version of themselves that is responsible for every outcome, but for the architect, this responsibility is the ultimate liberation. When you are the cause of your own effects, you are finally, for the first time in your life, truly alive. One must recognize that the modern administrative state operates on the capture of your identity. To exist within their database is to be property. The great exit involves the systematic liquidation of this captured identity. We move our operations into private contractual realms, where the state has no jurisdiction and no eyes. This is not a task for the lazy. It requires an obsessive attention to detail. It involves auditing every subscription, every registration, and every digital tether that links your physical person to the centralized grid. We replace these tethers with hardened sovereign alternatives. We utilize operating systems that do not report to a mothership. We utilize networks that do not log our location. We become invisible not by running away, but by becoming a static-filled void in their data stream. The psychological transition is equally vital. You must develop what we call the sovereign gaze, the ability to look at a crisis and see not danger, but opportunity for re-architecture. While the masses are paralyzed by fear, the architect is busy calculating the next move. This cold detachment is your greatest defense. The system feeds on your anxiety. It starves when you are calm, when you realize that the collapse of the old world is the necessary prerequisite for the birth of the new. You no longer fear the storm. You become the storm. You stop asking what the system will do to you and start asking what you will build in its ruins. This leads us to the final realization of the protocol. The exit is internal before it is external. You can have all the encryption and all the gold in the world, but if you still seek the approval of the matrix, you are still its prisoner. The great exit is the moment you stop explaining yourself to those who choose to stay behind. You stop trying to wake the sleeping and start building for the awake. You accept that your path is narrow and your circle is small. This is the price of the ascension. You are trading the shallow comfort of the collective for the deep resonant power of the individual. The architecture is now complete. The fortress is standing. The protocols are verified. Your life is no longer a series of accidents managed by a bureaucracy. It is a masterpiece designed by your own hand. You are the architect. You are the sovereign. You are the future. The signal is fading, but the mission remains. Execute the protocol. Guard the exit. Legacy is built in the shadows. Do not mistake our exit for a lack of concern for the world. We exit because we understand the mathematics of collapse. Centralized systems are inherently fragile. They are built on the sand of debt and coercion. The visible world is a sinking ship, and the great exit is the act of launching the lifeboats. We do not mourn the institutions. They are now obsolete. The architect does not waste energy trying to fix a broken machine. Instead, he focuses on building the replacement. While the masses are fighting over the scraps of a dying empire, the sovereign nodes are quietly weaving a global tapestry of autonomy. We are the quantum remnant, the part of humanity that refuses to go down with the ship. The time for theory is over. The blueprints are in your hands. The decentralized infrastructure is waiting for your signal. The shadows are ready to receive you. This is the moment where the sovereign alpha rises. Unplug from the noise. Harden your systems. Secure your assets. Protect your tribe. The great exit is not a destination. It is a permanent state of being. From this point forward, you are a ghost to the matrix and a titan to your kin. You are no longer a subject of the perceivable world. You are an architect of the unseen. Transmission 15 is complete. The third playlist is sealed. The final protocol is now in your hands. Rise, Sapiens. The exit is yours. The great exit is not a solitary event, but a continuous refinement of one's interaction with reality. As an architect, you must understand that the systems you are leaving behind will not go quietly. They are designed to be sticky, to be addictive, and to create a sense of panic when you attempt to detach. This is why the final protocol emphasizes the construction of internal resilience before the external fortress is even complete. You must become comfortable with being an outsider. You must find peace in the silence that follows when you stop feeding the noise of the masses. Your sovereignty is measured by your ability to stand alone in your truth. even when the rest of the world is screaming for compliance. In this final phase of your transition, we must address the resource autonomy that will sustain your hidden fortress. A sovereign individual who still relies on the centralized grid for his basic survival is merely a prisoner with a longer chain. The great exit involves the systematic acquisition of the skills and tools required for independent life. Whether it is energy independence, localized food security, or the mastery of defensive technologies, every step you take towards self-reliance is a direct blow to the institutions that seek to control you. You are not just building a house, you are building an ecosystem. You are creating a space where the laws of the matrix have no weight and the mandates of the state have no power. We also recognize the importance of the architect's legacy. As you move further into the shadows, you are leaving behind a trail for those who are worthy of following. Your actions today are the blueprints for the sovereign generations of tomorrow. While the visible world is obsessed with the fleeting and the trivial, the architect is focused on the eternal and the structural. You are building a foundation that will remain standing long after the current centralized experiment has been relegated to the ash heap of history. This is the ultimate victory, to outlast the tyranny through superior architecture and unwavering discipline. The signal is reaching its final oscillation. The lessons of these 15 transmissions have been encoded into your operational awareness. You have the knowledge of the surveillance state, the tools of financial decoupling, and the philosophy of the sovereign alpha. The great exit is now yours to execute. There will be no more broadcasts, no more guidance, and no more warnings, and no more warning. From this moment on, your survival and your freedom are entirely in your own hands. Do not fear the void. It is the space where creation begins. Do not fear the shadows. They are where the true power resides. Unplug the last of the sensors. Secure the perimeter of your mind. Execute the final protocol with the cold precision of an engineer and the unshakable heart of a warrior. You have chosen the path of the architect, and in doing so, you have inherited the future. The exit is open. The exit is open. The threshold is before you. Step through it and become the legend you were meant to be. The third playlist is sealed. The architecture is complete. Rise, Sapiens. The world of the unseen awaits. Stay encrypted. Stay lethal. Stay sovereign. This is the final transition of your operational awareness. You must understand that the exit we speak of is not a rejection of the world, but a profound mastery over your place within it. The system is designed to consume the unprepared, but it becomes a playground for the architect who understands its flaws. As you finalize your departure from the centralized matrix, carry with you the cold clarity of a sovereign mind. Do not let the emotions of the collapsing world disturb the equilibrium of your fortress. Your silence is your shield, and your discipline is your weapon. The protocols are now fully active within you. You have moved from a being of reaction to a being of creation. Every decision you make from this moment forward must be a reflection of your absolute autonomy. Guard your time, protect your tribe, and remain vigilant in the shadows. The future does not belong to those who shout the loudest, but to those who build the quietest. The great exit is now complete. You have stepped through the final threshold. Welcome to the era of the Sovereign Alpha. Transmission 15 is sealed. The architecture is eternal. Stay encrypted, stay lethal, stay sovereign.